All right, and let's bring in Bill McGurn, Fox News contributor and Main Street columnist for the Wall Street Journal. You know, Bill, every once in a while, we like to get into the Wayback Machine when it comes to President Biden and show what he said then versus what he's saying now. Listen to this 2019 interview that he did with PBS's Judy Woodruff about the dangers of withholding aid from Israel.
That'd be a tragic mistake. I strongly oppose Israel's settlement policy on the West Bank. I've made that clear to Bibi when I was vice president. I made it crystal clear to the Israelis. But the idea that we would cut off military aid to an ally, our only true ally in the entire region, is absolutely preposterous. It's just beyond my comprehension anyone would do that.
Well, clearly it's within his comprehension now, Bill.
Yes, it is. I mean, unfortunately, with President Biden, we see that he has kind of an Alice in Wonderland approach to words. They mean whatever he wants them to mean at the moment, and they're not meant to last beyond that moment. He can change them, like his ironclad commitment to Israel. And unfortunately, he's not usually called on it.
Bill, you know, this issue has really divided Democrats across the board, especially on Capitol Hill. And we just heard from John Fetterman, but I want to play a different bite from him because I want to really pay close attention to the first two lines of what he says here. Let's listen.
I didn't agree with that. You know, I was disappointed. That doesn't change my support for the president or the situation, but I do believe that given in that situation when you have the kind of enemy that has no conditions or morals or decency or any kind of a bottom. And I don't think we should have any kind of conditions. And I haven't seen anything with Israel's conduct that would ever justify conditions.
So, Bill, John Fetterman saying that, you know, he's obviously condemning what the president is doing, but he says it doesn't change my support for the president. Shouldn't it change his support for the president? I mean, how do you take these Democrats seriously in their criticism if they just continue to stand by these policies?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing playing out. There's concerns about the election, and especially swing states like Michigan, where there's a lot of Muslim voters, and Joe Biden is afraid of alienating them. As a result, he's alienated both sides. The idea that the people carrying Genocide Joe signs are going to be persuaded to vote for him, I think is ridiculous. All he's doing is alienating both sides in this. So he's been a very uncertain trumpet. But I think the background to all this, there's a tectonic shift in American politics with the Republicans becoming the allies of Israel and the Democrats becoming hostile. Remember, back when Obama was running for president again, at the convention, they booed Israel. Can you imagine what they would do today? And the Republicans, until my former boss, George W. Bush, were largely Arabists. They weren't hostile to Israel, but they were considered more friendly to Arab regimes. That's all switching now. And the politics is all jumbled because of it.
Yeah, obviously, there's going to be a lot of protests at the DNC, so we could see them out in force. Let me ask you this question, though, because like me, Bill, you've been around long enough to remember the Reagan administration. How is what Biden is threatening to do now different in any way than what Reagan did a couple of times back in the 1980s?
Well, first of all, I think Joe Biden's actions comes after the greatest attack that Israel has endured since World War II, since the Holocaust. This outrageous attack on October 7th, which Senator Fetterman was alluding to. You know, when you attack grandmas, like you go out looking for them and slit throats and stuff, there's no moral bottom. So a serious attack, and they're right there. They're right inside Israel, and I don't think anyone would leave them involved. So I think the seriousness of the threat, then coming on top of Joe Biden's, purported ironclad agreement, he goes over and makes a speech. Too often, this is Joe Biden words that turn out not to mean anything.
So
and
Bill,
I think it's a really dangerous position.
And so let me just follow up with this quick question. Reagan did call Menachem Begin when they were shelling the Palestinians and said, cut it out, and they did. And this is really hypothetical. But what do you think Reagan would do in this particular instance?
I think Reagan would back them. This comes after, again, as I say, a terrorist attack that was, unparalleled in its barbarity. So I don't, I think the fact that another president 40 years ago threatened some weapons. Israel's had a lot of disagreements with American presidents, all of them pretty much, over the last 40 years. It's a sovereign nation. It has to do what it's going to do, that it decides for itself. I think if America ever had an ally that undermined us at a similar point, people would rightly be outraged. After 9/11, if they said, don't go after Al-Qaeda or stop, or we're not going to help you, I think American people would be outraged. I think the situation is that Hamas has to be defeated. I don't think there's a middle ground. They're either defeated or they're going to gather and there'll be another attack. Maybe it's not now. Maybe it's 10 years from now. I don't know anyone else who would put up with that.
Well, and Bill, I think we crossed the Rubicon, too, a few weeks ago when Iran sent those drones at Israel.
Exactly.
Everything changed. Bill McGurn, thank you for joining us live. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Bill. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.